All right, a little bit of a news segment for you guys. The Lantern Sports Mailbag. We went on Twitter, asked you guys to submit some questions. We chose 3 of them that came in. We're going to start with the first one from NYY Stan 299. Says, what do you see happening with Stroud, McCord, Ewers going into next year? Obviously, Jack Miller transferred, so he's wise to leave Jack Miller out of that. And says, got to think Ewers will be a big distraction if Stroud has any kind of down game. Casey, your opinions on that first question?
I think it's a valid first question from NYY Stan 299. I mean, Stroud, he's playing the lights out. He exceeded expectations, filling a huge void from Justin Fields a season ago. And then I think that he's really overperformed. He's racking in all of the postseason awards. He's a Heisman finalist in my book. I think he wins it, depending on what happens in the SEC championship with Bryce Young. We still have to see. But everything I've seen from Bryce Young hasn't really been impressive. But C.J. Stroud, on the other hand, everything I've seen, acts the first 3 games, like, we'll just forget about those. Those happened a long time ago. So aside from those, I mean, Stroud's been fine. Even in the Tulsa game, which was in those first 3, he still threw, the Oregon game, he threw for 484 yards. So I don't.
A lot of yards.
Yeah, I know. I know I couldn't throw for 484. But, I mean, I think Quinn Ewers being here for a year, especially being in Ryan Day's system, which is more of a pro-style system, I think Quinn Ewers, definitely a pro-style quarterback, could present some problems. I think if I know me just stirring the pot, causing controversy over here. Don't call me a hot take machine.
It's not your fault. It's NYY Stan.
Yeah, I know. Don't call me a hot take machine for nothing. But I mean, I think Quinn Ewers is quarterback 2 next year. I think he makes the leap over Kyle McCord. I think he's still quarterback 2 because you have him sitting in the balance, just sitting back watching, letting Stroud play his third year of eligibility, second year starter. I think he goes to the draft after that. Then Ewers, keys to the driver's seat, go win us a national championship.
I mean, I think he kind of also knew what he was walking into when he decided to forgo
You're exactly
last
correct.
year of high school and come to Ohio State, right? I mean, he knows that this is kind of a long-term plan, and I'm sure Ryan Day sat there and said, "Look, CJ's our starter this year. That's pretty much how it's going to be." Although there was a quote-unquote quarterback competition, I think we kind of all knew that CJ is probably going to be that guy. So he was aware of this. So I think his decision-making, he's aware of that. It's going to factor in how it goes forward. I don't think there's going to be too much controversy for next year, at least.
I think his pocketbook is paying off nicely. I don't think he gets $1.4 million at Texas in NIL deals. Like you said, he knew exactly what he was walking into. There's a deep quarterback room replacing Justin Fields. He knows what he's up against. I think he's ready for the challenge, and I think in a couple of years you could see him leading the Buckeyes to the national championship.
Wait a few years, but it'll still come. He's got the $1.4 million, but he's not the Arby's RB.
I mean,
Travion Henderson,
yeah.
Arby's RB. That's the best NIL deal. I had to give a shout out to the Arby's RB.
Because Travion Henderson, he gets paid to run the ball.
Exactly. We have the meats. Arby's.
Yeah, exactly.
Mac burner account.
Great name, Maction Stan. There we go.
Stan. I mean, you had to love a little bit of Maction.
Yeah, I know. Mac championship this weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
NIU Kent State.
Yeah.
Who knows which way that one swings?
You never know.
Is this the Golden Flash's year? In-state rival to Ohio State.
Yeah,
Kent State.
in-state rival. You never know. My dad went to NIU, so growing up, I would actually watch the MAC championship all the time. We wouldn't be too invested in it, but we'd watch it. It's enjoyable. So.
You going to Detroit this weekend?
I'm not going to Detroit this weekend for that. Mac burner account. Can Ohio State go into next season without making any significant changes to the coaching staff, most notably defensively? Obviously, this big topic, considering the way Kerry Coombs coached early on in the year, and there were some serious questions. And then they started to play really well defensively. And yeah, things broke down against Michigan, and that is the number one thing that matters is you beat that team up north, and that's every year. No matter how good you've been, it's the litmus test as far as these kinds of questions, as the coaching staff and things like that. What's your answer to that question from the Mac Burner account? Maction Stan.
Yeah, exactly.
Maction
Stan. I mean, I don't think so.
No changes?
No, I don't think you can.
I
don't think you can go into next season without any sort of change.
Okay.
I think, especially like you mentioned, you have to beat Michigan. That's the one game on the schedule. You could go 0-10.
Yeah, I think 11.
0-11, because Ohio State's 10-2 right now. You go 0-11. If you beat Michigan, successful season. I mean, that's just how the people up here in Ohio, that's how they feel. That's how everybody in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center feels. You have to beat your rival. And when you just get bullied at the line of scrimmage with the front seven, just sort of taking their foot off the gas, it seemed like, just getting manhandled by Michigan. They pulled their center, they pulled their guard, they pulled their tight end. They pulled everybody across the formation, sealed those lanes for Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum. They were able to run off tackle, inside. They probably would have been able to run backwards if they could. I don't know. But, I mean, I don't see Ohio State taking this in stride and saying, oh, yeah, we have the guys, we have the number of pieces in place on the defensive end to remain up here. Matt Barnes, he took over play calling duties, like you said. Kerry Coombs, he went up to the booth. Another thing with that, with Kerry Coombs being sort of the eagle's eye, let me watch over, Matt Barnes being down on the field, let me call the plays, that's a co-DC. I mean, pretty much co-defensive coordinator. Yeah. That's the reason Marcus Freeman slipped through Ohio State's grasp. I mean, he wanted to run his defense, but Ohio State said, I mean, we're going to stick with the co-DC. I mean, it hasn't really worked out. I mean, aside from 2019 with Jeff Hafley and Greg Madison leading the ship, has Ohio State really had a great Jim Tressel, Luke Fickell type defense?
All the names.
I know. I say no. Where Ohio State's defense, you could win a 20-14 game, and you can rely on your defense to go out and say, hey, we need a stop. We're going to go get a stop. You needed a stop 4 minutes to go against Michigan. You knew what they were going to do. Here, let's hand it off to Hassan Haskins. He's going to take the handoff, go inside the tackles. They couldn't stop it, Kevin. They couldn't. Yeah. And it drives me nuts just thinking about that game, because with all the pieces on the defensive end, you have Larry Johnson, on the defensive line. Matt Barnes said he's one of the greatest defensive line coaches in college football history, let alone Ohio State history. Wow. Al Washington with the linebackers, Kerry Coombs, defensive coordinator, Matt Barnes, secondary coach. You have some names there, but those names mean nothing if they're unable to perform. And I don't see Kerry Coombs wearing the scarlet and gray as hard hitting as that is to say. I don't wish for anybody to be fired. I want them to have successful jobs and stuff like that. I don't want anybody to be fired. But when it comes down to it, if you can't get the job done, changes need to be made. Who do you see potentially filling that spot?
I think honestly the first question you have to answer is, you go internal or external, right? About, do you look for someone who's already knows the program, knows the players, knows the situation you're in, or do you just go find a guy who's done it well in another program? For you, what's the answer to that question? Because that kind of helps understand what they're going to do filling that DC role.
I think it's external, Kevin. Okay. Ohio State, they're able to recruit the 5-stars. They're able to get the talent to bring in. So it's not so much, all right, we know our guys, let's make them gel. It's let's get our scheme right, and then the players together will be able to gel. One guy's scheme that I love, I know this is sort of far-fetched, Jim Leonard up at Wisconsin. Okay. They're a perennial powerhouse defense year in and year out. You could play a game, let's take a sip of our drink every time on the broadcast they mention Jim Leonard's defense. Just go ahead and swig your water, your lemonade, your Coke, whatever you're drinking. But, I mean, Jim Leonard, I love what he does defensively, especially with the secondary, as a former safety himself, being able to play in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Ohio State's pass defense, that's been the basis of the issue. Ohio State's run defense, as of late, they've been, aside from the Michigan game, aside from the Oregon game, Minnesota, the run defense has been fine. I mean, they've been able to stop the run, but just sort of this dismantling of the linebackers as of late, I guess, is sort of where the issue lie. And another name that I like, in addition to Jim Leonard, Jim Schwartz. You know him well as you know him as a Detroit Lion, Chicago Bear fan.
Many years.
Maybe, I mean, he's not going to be coaching. He's not going to be the head coach. So Ohio State, they won't go 0-11 like I mentioned, beat Michigan in one game. So But I mean, Jim Schwartz, he's defensive minded. When he was with the Eagles, they had a pretty solid defense. That was when they were going through sort of that quarterback offensive carousel with Carson Wentz and stuff like that. So, I mean, they mutually agreed to part ways. I think a guy with NFL experience being able to bring that down to the college game, if you're able to stop sort of these simple concepts that Michigan was running, something that a guy that has experience at the next level is able to recognize and able to adjust to, I think that could also pose some optimism, I guess, because Marcus Freeman, obviously, he's off the board with Notre Dame now promoting him to the new head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I like those names. Last question from NYY Stan 299 again. He's coming with the questions. We love to see it. Who do y'all want to see come in and run the defense next year? Same question. And do you think OSU finally gets away from the co-DC stuff? So, we already talked about who they might bring in.
Yep.
Do you think they get away from the co-DC stuff, though, regardless?
I think they should, especially with just the situation with Marcus Freeman. You had just the holy grail at your fingertips. But you let him slip away because you wouldn't let him run his defense. You had to sort of have a piece here and a piece here all coming together. I don't know if that works anymore. I think a guy wants to step in, run his defense, and I mean, if you turn him away from that, you could lose the next Marcus Freeman. Yeah, so how about you?
Yeah, I think they got to get away from it too. It's just too conflicting. There's just, it's too much back and forth, right? It becomes a blame game at times. Whose fault is it? Is it this guy's fault up top? Is it this guy's fault down below calling plays? Do we change it? When do we change it? It's just a mess. Get your guy, let him be there, let him run the show as DC, no co-DC stuff, just him being, the guy going forward. And I think that's what they'll do. It's what they've done in the past. It's not like that's been a constant thing for them. It's just kind of, recently. So I think they just find their guy and go with it.
Building off this question, I know the Jim Leonard thing was far-fetched. The one thing I think Ohio State has an advantage of with Wisconsin, money. I mean,
money talks.
Yeah,
especially,
I know.
You've seen the coaching carousel. What is the one constant in all of those? Brian Kelly at LSU, Lincoln Riley at USC. I mean, I guess USC not much greater than Oklahoma from a financial standpoint, but you're in LA. But nonetheless, it's money talks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jim Leonard, he's had it made up in Madison just for these past couple years. But I think just the ability, I don't see Wisconsin being in contention for a national championship, especially with the offense that they run where it's, all right, let's line up in the I formation. Let's give it to our running back who we just keep churning out for some reason. We have the greatest running backs year in and year out. Let's just keep handing to him. No explosive offense. I don't see them contending for a national championship. So that's sort of the separator for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, Ohio State's defense, it'll be sort of a project, I guess, to be able to fix. But if he's able to step in, get the financial resources he wanted, I'm turning into Money Manziel over here with all this. But I mean, if he's able to step in and just run his defense the way he wants, he'll get that ever so elusive national championship that he's just pining for at Wisconsin. So I don't see these being equal jobs. I think Ohio State, the opportunities presented to be able to run your defense and run it well and sort of turn around your program. You saw, I don't want to shy away from college too much, but you see Tom Brady go down to Tampa Bay, and immediately they go from, all right, let's play average in the NFC South, now to Super Bowl champion. I think a guy like Jim Leonard, he's going to be able to step in with an average defense and turn it into a next level company. And I think Ohio State with C.J. Stroud at the helm, that offense, explosive, Travion Henderson, he's coming back. The wide receiver room, not to mention. I think if he's able to step in, Ohio State becomes an immediate national title contender.
There you have it. From Casey Smith, he's locking it in right now. So
all right, I'll step off the I'll step off the soapbox for now. But yeah.
There you go. But hey, that was a lot of fun. Lantern TV Sports Mailbag. So we'll probably be doing more of these. So be looking out for it on our Twitters. Make sure you give us a follow so you don't miss it. Send your questions so we can answer your question, and we'll get some more funny usernames up there as well, hopefully.
Yep.
So. Hope you guys enjoyed it. For myself, Kevin Lapka, for KC Smith. We'll see you next time for the Lantern TV Sports Mailbag. Take care.